In this episode, we're talking about an album that contains the biggest selling single of all time. No, it's not the Beatles. It's not Elvis. It's not Mariah Carey. We're catching up with Bing Crosby's album, Merry Christmas. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, and happy holidays to the 3324 podcast, Eric. It's that time of the year.
It is indeed.
What gave it away? What gave it away?
Holy crap. Yes, your hat, for one. We got the nog going. Yeah, and Rudolph is in the house right now.
Rudolph is in the hizzo. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're seeing me in my holiday best. I don't do this kind of stuff. I don't go for the hats. But for the podcast,
I should go for the hats, but I choose not to.
for the podcast, this is what we do. So if you're joining us on YouTube, welcome aboard. If you could like and subscribe and leave a comment, that'd be great. If you're listening to us on Spotify, happy holidays. Thanks for joining us. We haven't expressed our gratitude in a while. Usually we very effusively thank you, but let's do that now. Thank you guys for joining us throughout the year as we're closing out. This is one of two holiday episodes.
That's right. Our second year. Can you believe it? We're already
second holiday.
Our second year is almost, our sophomore year is almost out. Wow.
Yeah, coming to a close. We're racing to the finish. So last year we didn't do any Christmas music episodes. We only did one holiday episode, and it was a movie. It's a Wonderful Life. So
that's right. Yeah.
I thought this year I'm like, all right, let's kind of tackle something. What could it be? There's not a ton of Christmas albums that are like the whole thing. Probably this one, and probably Nat King Cole. The Christmas song.
Yeah,
probably
words right out of my mouth. That's it. That's all you need. That's really.
I mean, I can think of. I mean, there are others, obviously, but as far as like.
Well, there's
when you think of
thousands of others, but I mean, come on.
But usually you think of Christmas singles, even by older artists. You say, I love that version of so and so by Andy Williams or whatever. Or I love, when Michael Bublé sings this or that, but they don't have those defining holiday albums. Mariah Carey has a defining holiday song, and now there's starting to be a little backlash about that. Like the tides are turning on All I Want for Christmas Is You.
I know. It's so despised. Like my sister, for example, she absolutely despises that song. And like she's been posting stuff on Facebook, and I like, when did that happen? Like, wow, that's hey, whatever, man. I'm not a fan of it myself, but I don't particularly care for the more modern stuff. I dig the traditional standard because I feel like the voices of the time match this music perfectly, and especially when they're doing the more sort of traditional ballads and the carols and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean it's always been a staple in the household as far as long back when I was a kid. It's definitely those voices are still there. Still haunting the house as it were. But
the literal ghosts of Christmas past. So
true.
We're talking about the Bing Crosby album called Merry Christmas, and there's going to be a lot of information because this is one of the oldest Christmas albums ever, right?
Yeah.
It might even be the first one. It's got there's a lot of records that it's set, but it's also a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know this album called Merry Christmas. Well, it's been re-released. Here's the original.
Okay.
This is actually a 1965 pressing, but it's called, if for those on YouTube are going to see that, I'm holding up the album from 1965 version on Decca Records.
Right.
And it's called Merry Christmas. I think around 1982 when they repressed it, they renamed it White Christmas. So you'll see this same album with the same cover and the same like Bing Crosby signature, but it says White Christmas instead. So it's kind of been rebranded.
Was that largely due to the film?
No, based on the song.
Holiday Inn, on the song from the film. Yeah,
because it wasn't until 1982 that they rebranded it. So Holiday Inn was far in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
I think it's an easier sell when it's called Bing Crosby White Christmas. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that song is on there, So let's do some stats. These are going to probably be the oldest stats we ever do.
Let's dust them
And
off.
we're literally going to be dusting them off because we're going to be
lift the lid on the box there, and yeah.
We should not call this episode the 3324 podcast. We should call it the 78.
The 78, absolutely.
24 podcast, because this was originally released in 1945 as the album Merry Christmas. It was originally 10 songs on 5 78 RPM records. Now, 78 spin at 78 revolutions per minute.
Mm-hmm.
Modern LPs 33. They spin a lot slower. So 78 spin a lot faster, so you're going to get less on there. So it was a set of 5 78 RPM records with 10 songs on it. 8 of them were Christmas songs, and then there was a version of Danny Boy, and then a song called Let's Start the New Year Right. So that's the original version in 1945. It went through a couple of changes due to technology, due to the advent of the LP. So its final release, this one that we see here, was released in 1955. Okay. This album has been continually in print longer than any other album in the history of the United States. It has never gone out of print. So it's never been it might have changed titles, but it's never been pulled away. You can't get it anymore, then re-release it. They keep releasing new editions, but it's been continually in print longer than any album in the history of the United States.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I told you we're dropping some these are holiday gifts we're giving you. Holiday gifts for the trivia night on Christmas. It went 4 times platinum, so it's in excess of 4 million copies. And of course, White Christmas is the most popular. It's the biggest selling single of all time. White Christmas is the biggest selling single of physical media. Over 50 million copies sold. And then if you include other versions that he did when he did re-records, you're talking over 100 million copies sold.
Wow. Of
just the song White Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So it is by far and wide, no one's touching it, the most popular song ever. And this song won an Oscar. Yeah, it won an Oscar for Best Original Song for the movie Holiday Inn that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
This song was written by Irving Berlin. Oddly enough, in the movie Holiday Inn, this wasn't the song that they were positioning to be the song that would take off or be the big song to be remembered. It was actually a non-holiday song. But this was the one that just kind of took everybody's ear.
You are the trivia master. I bow to you, sir.
Cheers to me.
Here's to you.
we are actually in line tonight. Eric has eggnog with
Jameson,
some Jameson,
Irish whiskey in there. Yeah,
I've got my buddy Jim Beam in my eggnog.
So a little bit of bourbon, but it's whiskey. So we'll just we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It gets the job. It gets the job done.
It really does. I prefer actually just adding a little something to regular eggnog rather than buying, the stuff that's like
that's too much. That's already it's like a Bailey,
like the Evan Williams, and it's this is really good. So
actually, anyway. I have cream to mint. I should have added a little bit of that and maybe minted it up a little bit. I also have cocoa chocolate, like chocolate schnapps.
This could be a whole other side to the cast, man. I mean, we could,
the
I'm
gonna make a
like, what are we drinking tonight? Well, we got,
what's that? What are we pairing?
Get there like we're too pretentious and say, hey, we got Macallan 20 year, like stuff.
What
we don't even drink.
What are we pairing with this episode?
Right.
Shasta.
Grape knee high. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, man.
White Rock, Penguin Cola, if you're from the New York area. Is it fair to say that this is the gold standard of holiday albums? Is this the one?
I think so. The only thing that would come close in comparison would be Nat King Cole. I mean, for me,
and that's they're neck and neck too.
That's a whole nother. I mean, but man, that man has a voice like the velvet. I mean, as far as singers go, I think Bing Crosby, obviously the crooner.
Yep.
But Nat King Cole had the voice. I mean, he's smooth as silk. It's just
it's something about these jazz artists. It's something about the jazz artists that can interpret this.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually prefer Nat King Cole, but this, like you say, it is. I'll listen to both in a
Yeah, it's a
heartbeat.
toss up.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and you mentioned crooners. Yeah, Bing Crosby. You know, a lot of people, for people that don't know much about him or only know him from the holiday stuff that he did.
Yeah.
He was the forerunner of Elvis, and he was the forerunner of Frank Sinatra. He was the biggest selling pop idol in the 30s and 40s. He
Yeah.
was the one. He would sing a song on a radio show. The next day, that song would sell 50,000 copies. If he sang a song if he premiered a song, people were hanging on everything that Bing Crosby did. He was the Elvis, or he was the Sinatra, because then when Sinatra in the late 40s and 50s came in, you know, oh my God, you know, Sinatra, oh, he's so subversive. Like they thought Sinatra was so subversive compared to Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
Right. And then when Elvis came along, oh my God, he's so subversive. All the girls are fainting and screaming over him. But each generation had that. Sinatra, when Sinatra was young, he was like Elvis. Girls were going crazy, passing out. Bing Crosby was the same thing. He was the first in that line.
My grandmother
Of
that
that.
was his boy, Sinatra. I mean,
Yeah.
especially, and the thing of it is that what most people may or may not realize, especially today, is that, you know, Sinatra had that golden voice
Yeah.
in his younger years. He had that velvety.
Yeah. And he
was a good
thick
singer.
and skinny.
It's
He
the-
was
it-
good looking.
Right.
You know,
And-
he was a pop idol of the time of
Right.
whatever the genre of music was.
Yep.
He was the one, and Crosby was the one before that. Crosby was making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
Radio shows. He was doing the movies, the road movies with Bob Hope.
Yeah.
He was an innovator. A lot of people don't know. He was one of the pioneers of pre-recording radio shows.
Yeah.
So he came, you know, he embraced the technical aspect of that, of, hey, I can pre-record my shows and then just play them. And the radio stations were like, no, you can't do that. It's like people want to listen to the radio show knowing that you're singing right then. And he's like, well, I'll just take my show off the air then.
Mhm.
And he did for a while. And then he came back, and then he was a pioneer of early, you know, of videotaping, right? Of actual videotaping. He was a pioneer in tape recording. He had one of the first tape recorders ever, and he gave one to Bob Hope, and then it started spreading around. So this guy was on the cutting edge of technology, as well as he's known for Christmas music, but you know, he did so much more. And he's got a baritone.
Oh,
that voice.
Yeah.
At the end of
White can achieve that, man. You know, it's very tough. You know, to have that kind of voice. I would love to have that kind of voice.
At the end of White Christmas, when he's like, "What, you know, all your Christmases be," you know, like, he goes into the basement for that.
I think it's a lot harder to do a lower voice than it is to do a falsetto. To be honest, I mean, you could achieve something of a falsetto. I think anybody can honestly do that. You know, to hit those high notes, you know, if you wanted to. But him, to go that low. Yeah, that's you know.
So he became known as the king of the crooners.
Yeah.
He was one of the first to embrace a more intimate singing style too. Back then, you had the Al Jolson, everything. All the singing was very broad and big and a little campy. And because of the pioneering of the recording techniques in the 40s, he was able to kind of bring that down and make it his singing became a little more intimate. You know, it wasn't as that big flashy yada. You know, like kind of
absolutely. And again, stuff. Because of his the baritone.
Even better
voice, the recording techniques at the time, you know, things still sounded very tinny, very sort of upper high end.
Yeah.
But his voice really brought that down. There was a warmness to his voice that it was unlike anything else at the time. You know, the singers that came after, but he gave it that warmth. He gave it that goes to show just how deep that voice was.
And it still comes through.
Yeah.
And it still comes through.
Yep.
Another little bit of trivia. The song White Christmas had to be re-recorded in 1947. Is that when it was? When did they re-record it? Yeah, they had to re-record it in 1947 because the original master, they made so many duplicates and copies from the master that the master just deteriorated.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they actually went in and they got, you know, the original band and all the original backing singers, the original people that worked on the recording, and they had to they re-recorded it because they had just made so many copies from that original master that it just got destroyed. So they had to go back in.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that. Like
Right, yeah.
nowadays, they have the master tapes and they're in decent shape. You can remaster them. That thing just got copied so much that it got destroyed. And they said, well, you need to re-record this because what we've got is not usable. So that should tell you the impact of this song that he actually had to go back and redo it. So 1945, that original set of 78s comes out. It gets re-released in 1947 on 78s again. It wouldn't be until 1955 that, with the advent of the LP, the long playing record, the 12-inch record, that you would get a proper LP or album release of it. So what they did is they took off that the Danny Boy and Let's Start the New Year Right. And then they added a couple of songs. They added some songs that were written a little bit more recently. They added Silver Bells is beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Killarney, and Mele Kalikimaka, which are great ones. And he did some work with the Andrews Sisters, who were big in the 40s.
Oh yes.
And they came out and helped him again. They're on Jingle Bells, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Mele Kalikimaka.
Another staple in my house, because
yeah.
My grandfather, my uncle, my mom, my grandmother, we all lived together in the same house. So yeah, those swing bands of the period, those Andrews Sisters, that was always going. If it wasn't rock and roll, it was that. And I had no problem with that, man. I fell in love with that stuff. It was such good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew's Sisters, known for their song Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and their appearance in a few Abbott and Costello films. They were in Buck Privates and a couple other ones too, where Lou Costello was always in love with Patty Andrews. He was always in love with her. And then of note on this album is John Scott Trotter and his orchestra did pretty much almost every song. Vic Schoen and his orchestra did a couple other ones. So you get these great bands, those great swing bands of the 40s as well. Those were a whole other thing. You had vocal artists, and then you had just swing bands like Artie Shaw, like the big bands, Benny Goodman. All these band leaders had their own band. So when you put these two together, you get a band, of that's their own thing, and then you have them backing Bing Crosby. It's like what else do you want out of the holidays, for crying out loud?
Yeah,
it's just
they had it all going on back then. It's fantastic. The lushness of it. You can get going. I could put that. I'll listen to that stuff any day. I mean, I could put that on just as much as I get a rock and roll record or a pop song. Sure.
Bing definitely has it going on. I mean, he can handle the material. He's a really good singer, so he can interpret. He's also known for kind of throwing in little extra parts. So, when you're that good of a singer, you can kind of do that, and it seems very natural. It doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem like he's adding it in. It's just kind of almost like scatting, kind of throwing in little extra lines here and there, and he does it really well.
It's not like really over the top. It's just this sort of little, like these little accents, like but just to accent that voice, though, that really low voice, and he doesn't have to do anything more than that, and that's what's so great. He doesn't have to really project in a loud, boisterous voice. That voice alone just sells it. And I love that.
It's better when it's not.
That's right.
That's not a song. That's not a voice that you're going to use to belt. Yeah, you're not going to. Yeah, you're not going to belt with it.
That's right.
You want that to be more personal and like
you buy a fire. Bowie knew what he was doing when he collaborated with Bing on that song. On Little Drummer Boy. I think that's one of the best.
One of the strangest things that ever happened.
Strangest collaborations ever, but one of the best Christmas songs, in my opinion. Just
especially at that time, because Bowie was still in that really strange mode. That was 1977, so that's Bowie was really weird.
That was his German, when he was that was Heroes when he was in Germany.
Berlin era,
Berlin trilogy, that was that phase. It was more progressive and dark and industrial, and and he's doing this song with Bing Crosby.
Yeah, Bing Crosby. I listen to the modern artists. It's like I don't think you listen to David Bowie. I'm not sure you listen to David Bowie. Maybe, but I don't think so. And unfortunately, it was only a few weeks later that Bing Crosby would pass away after recording that. He died in Spain on a golf course.
Yeah.
But very, very strange. It worked. It's more of a curiosity. Now it's kind of it was a Christmas curiosity where people listened to it just because it was so strange. But now it's kind of transcended that. Now people have kind of accepted it as a bona fide Christmas song because
Absolutely.
of,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
of the impact of David Bowie. And, you know, because again, back in 77, Bowie was a really strange guy. It's kind
Well,
of
the culture too. I mean, the pop culture seems to have over the years, I think pop culture in general, and this goes for I think everything, music, movies, everything seems to be merging together, and it's all kind of like one thing now. Like it's not too far separated anymore. Everything no
Yeah.
longer has its own corner. I think there's a little
Yep.
bit of everything in everything we have today. And I think most certainly things like that really kind of
Yeah, nothing's off
sort
the
of pushing
table.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing's off the table nowadays.
right.
Where, you know, it used to be like, oh my
Exactly.
God, all the pearl clutching.
Yeah.
But then back then it was, you know, it's like it was very strange. It was, you know, Bowie, and
Yeah.
he just looked like he woke up. Bowie. He's like,
Well, you could just
phase,
imagine like
what
what
phase was
the
he in?
well, you could just imagine what the older folks were thinking too. Like, what the,
Yeah.
you know, what was this guy? Like,
What's
you know, what is
what's
that
with his
guy?
eye? Yeah, what's with his eyes? What is he? You know, what's going on with him?
He is an alien. Like he's like this
Yeah.
guy is an alien. He came, you know. Yeah, I could just imagine what those folks were thinking. But I think it's brilliant. It's you know those little things every now and again are just you know they stand out and they always will. They stand the
Yeah.
test of time and it just
Especially
gets
because it
better
was a
and better with
one-off.
age.
You know,
Yeah,
it was a
sure.
one-off, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about them trying to do a whole album and then it gets weird and they're
Mm-hmm.
doing Frosty and doing weird stuff. You know,
Mm-mm.
you do one, you one and done, and you walk away from it.
Yeah.
Back to the Merry Christmas album. This album is kind of interesting because it's, you know, it's got a mix of religious and secular music.
Yeah.
And then it's also got some interesting international flavors too, right? When
Yeah.
when I was listening to the album, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, Adestes Fideles, right? Which is "O Come All Ye Faithful," is sung in Latin. I'm guessing that's Latin or Italian.
That's the Latin. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Latin version, right?
Yep.
And then you got a song called "Christmas in Killarney," which represents the Emerald Isle, which is great, which was written at the time. And then "Mele Kalikimaka," which is a Hawaiian
It's an odd
Christmas song
choice,
as
for
well,
sure.
you
Yeah.
know, which was written, you know, at that time. It was written in the 50s when it was recorded, or late 40s. So those were kind of, you know, when those Christmas songs were still being written, that could be classics. And it's just and then you've got, you know, I think three or four religious songs that are specifically like religious, like "Silent Night,"
Mm-hmm.
"God Yes Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen," "Faith of Our Fathers."
Yep.
Actually only three.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
those are
Yep.
ones that are specifically religious. So it's
Mhm.
a nice mix of religious stuff and the secular stuff. What is your opinion on that? Do you veer more towards the secular stuff, like the Santa Clausy, or do you veer more towards the religious stuff
I like the
as a
balance.
preference?
I
The
I
balance?
prefer a balance. I do. You know, one thing is too much, you know, and
Mhm.
then, you know, because a lot of artists do it. They prefer to do the more religious stuff. But some
Mhm.
artists have done some a remarkable job of recreating, you know, those traditional uh Christian
Mhm.
songs and you know, but you know, you gotta that's Christmas. I mean, but
Yeah.
again, it's you
It's the
know,
only holiday that has two facets to it,
well, it does,
right?
and the whole, and that's the thing. It's like you gotta
You could pick.
nowadays. It's like it's almost like you can't say Christmas anymore. You have to say
Yeah.
holidays. You gotta. I don't know, man. I prefer the more the split down the middle kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I think as artists albums like this really at the time might have been already doing that. Like you know, it's like you know you're doing both, so
A
you're
little bit of
pleasing
everything.
both
Yeah.
audiences. Like you know people who are more into more traditional, more. I for one, I'm not a big fan of like you know the secular. I mean, some of that stuff tends to get a little too corny, too you know whatever. But people have also
I want a
written
hippopotamus for Christmas. What's the matter with
my
that?
grandmother got run over by. I mean,
Gayla Peavy. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas.
I just you know that some of
Yeah.
that stuff just gets a little out of control. I
Okay.
like, but what I do like though is when an artist can write an original song
Yeah.
that is somewhat secular but not too silly,
Yeah.
but it kind of embraces the spirit of the holiday and
Yeah.
you know that kind of thing. So I do like an original number from time to time too,
I think
which
that's a lost art.
it's yeah, yeah, I
You
think so
know,
too.
I think it's very easy to lean on the standards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because they're so entrenched, they're, whether you like the religious aspect of Christmas or the Santa aspect, like I said, it's like the only holiday that is split into two. People
Yeah.
that are not religious can celebrate that and have,
Mhm.
the whole Santa thing. And then, but people that are very spiritual and religious get a whole other experience out of it,
Yeah, all you need to do is press the button or just pick up the needle and just
Yeah.
fast
And you can
forward to
kind
the
of
next track
yeah,
if you're
and you
not a
can kind
fan
of
of.
go, with it. But
That's right.
but but as far as like, yeah, we talked about All I Want for Christmas Is You. That's probably the best example of something, and that's not even that recent anymore. It's like 25 years old or something, maybe even more.
Mhm.
People don't want to hear. I don't think people want to hear new Christmas songs because they're just, are they too self-aware now? Hey, I'm on my iPhone thinking about you. You're like,
Yeah.
what is it going to be?
It just doesn't apply. And
yeah, I
that
think
and
it,
that
I
and
think
that
it calls back to the simplicity of these
and
songs
that
of the
kind
holiday.
of, that really kind of dives into the whole like material aspect of Christmas too.
Yeah.
The objects, the presents, and a lot of this stuff too, like, Madonna doing, Santa Baby and, with the voice like Betty Boop, like Santa
Mhm.
Baby. It's like
I like that,
now,
actually.
all of a sudden now it's kind of sexual. Like what?
Uh,
Why are you like
I dug
hot
it.
for Santa? Like, come on. I mean,
I dug it. I liked her
what
version
kind
of
of
it.
message is that for kids? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, people are trying all kinds of different things. And I remember those, you remember those CDs at the time. Every year they come out with a rock and roll artist.
Yeah.
It was like the pop CDs, and there was the Christmas pop or whatever.
Yep.
Some of that stuff was actually pretty good. And in fact, I don't know did you watch the Guardians special, the Guardians
not
of the
yet.
Galaxy?
Not
Okay.
yet. Don't ruin it.
Okay. I'm not going to ruin it,
Don't
but
ruin it.
there is a song in there that I'm not going to say what it is, but you'll notice
Don't-
right away.
Don't ruin
And that was on one of those CDs, and it
Okay.
really took me back. And that was a great, like James Gunn,
Yeah, he's good for that.
he's good for that. So
He's good for that.
it worked.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff, some of that stuff is actually pretty good because they were original songs at the time, and they were really trying at least to capture the the holiday spirit. But this kind of like
Yeah, it's
sort
like
of
I
loosey-goosey kind of
I'd rather listen to something like I'd rather put on a album virtually from 1945.
That's right. You put it on,
Right? I'd rather put this on. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear this album. I wouldn't want to hear like a reimagining of this album by somebody. Like
no,
I wouldn't want to hear I don't care who it is, Bublé or any of the
no,
smoother
no.
vocalists.
Right.
I want to put on this album from 1945. I want to hear these arrangements because they're authentic to when they were done.
Yeah.
It would be gimmicky. It's almost gimmicky when they try and they got no choice when new artists will get the orchestra together. I mean, you have to replicate that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't hold up against these original recordings. Like I don't care what the techniques are, how much better it sounds, better instruments. Putting on "Merry Christmas" by Bing Crosby is just it's a better experience, because
it absolutely is.
It's
Yeah.
of its time, and that was the standard. This was the popular music this was in the style of the popular music of the time. So it's not
Absolutely.
they're not doing it it's not being done as a throwback or let's try and sound it. This was the sound, and now people are forced almost, right? They're almost forced to copy this sound.
That's the absolute truth, because people are, kids today, like they're, what are they really listening to as far as Christmas music? And we could say that, oh, we like it because it was from, when we were kids, that's what we heard. But kids today, that like they're listening, like you say, like people like Michael Bublé or somebody trying to emulate the crooner thing and trying to bring that all back. And all you need to do is just pull out the old dusty record and put it on, and there you go.
If it leads them to that, if they listen to Bublé and then want to hear where it came from, because again, album sales are back.
Yeah.
So people are going, it makes it a lot more exciting to go and find the original Merry Christmas version of the album, as opposed to the white, I think I have a later version of this too, probably from the 70s, but half the fun is discovering that music and then going back and learning, that it was written, that it was actually recorded even earlier than 1955.
Yep.
So it's actually 10 years old, that by the time the technology caught up where they could put out LPs, this music was already 10 years old
Yeah, learn
when,
from the
when it when it
masters,
came, when it
people.
came out. You know,
That's
what?
all what I always say. Learn from the masters.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. It's an education. It really is.
yeah,
Music, like anything else, it's from my opinion, the best stuff is back there.
yeah,
And and you gotta respect that. You gotta respect where, the form, where it came from. And even if you don't have to love it, you don't have to dig it, but you can at least acknowledge what people have achieved in back in the day, and in establishing a certain sound. And going forward, that would be the thing. That would be,
yeah,
people trying to do new things and inspiring artists to do more,
yeah,
but it had to start somewhere. So,
yeah.
and
I,
yeah,
I would I would point to Christmas in Killarney and actually Mele Kalikimaka. They sound like the most gimmicky songs, and they probably are. But they've got really great arrangements. They really use
they absolutely do.
they really use the big bands, because a lot of this other stuff, Silent Night is very almost like a solo vocal, right? The music isn't there to get in the way of it, and White Christmas, the music isn't in the way. It's not there to get in the way. Those are Bing songs, like that's the vocal showcase,
Yeah.
But some of the other ones, Faith of Our Fathers, those have really just really nice arrangements, and it's great just to listen to, appreciate. Again, that was the popular music at the time, so that's what these guys were making. This was it. This was the type of music, so they were really good. There was so many of these, like I said, these big bands, Artie Shaw and all these other ones,
Yep.
kicking around. And when you pair it with, I don't know what you can compare it to today. Maybe, I don't know, like Taylor Swift with some like Taylor Swift and U2 or something, making an album together. Like that's it's like that's what it was at that time.
I honestly feel like the modern artists were the downfall, because some people hate Christmas music, period. Like they just despise, maybe not so much the holiday, but the music. Like,
Do you know why? Do you know why? Do you know why?
Why?
Because radio stations start playing it 24 hours a day, the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And you can't
that's
like we
fair.
talked about this in our Thanksgiving episode. We talked about the pushing of the holidays, right? And you have to actively, or you almost have to actively stay away from it if you want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to a radio station like in the New York area, there's like Light FM, the day after Thanksgiving, they flip the switch and it's 24/7.
Right.
And the playlist isn't that deep. So it's kind of like you're hearing the same 30 songs,
more
perhaps.
Contemporary. It's going to be more contemporary.
It's more contemporary,
right.
but it's not even deep. It's like the same 30 songs. So it's not like
right.
you're getting a whole bunch of different stuff, so that's why people are like, I'm tired of this. Maybe that's where the backlash for Mariah Carey is coming from, because
I think
it just gets played. It's played over and over again, and people, you almost don't get a chance to miss it, even though it's only a month worth of music. You're not getting a chance to miss it because they just like it gets played constantly. Like it's just.
But my thing is, I mean, I can understand if you're working in like a retail, okay, and you have to listen to that stuff because it's being played in the overhead, or you go to a, you can't avoid it. Okay, it's going to get on your nerves, no matter, even the best music might get.
I'm sure they stop. I'm sure they stop hearing it after like the first 10 minutes. It's kind of like it becomes like
you got to
white noise.
That's right. But on the other hand, you're like, it's up to you to make Christmas, what it should be. And I really honestly feel that everybody has it in them to set that time aside and to make it special. You get,
in whatever way that
whatever
is,
you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And that's absolutely true. And if you choose to put on an album only on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, like I was used to doing, my family just listening to that music. We didn't listen to it up until that point. Yeah. We just put it on Christmas Eve night. That's the best time because you're relaxing. If you most people don't work on Christmas Eve, or if you do, you're lucky enough to get out at like early enough so you can enjoy the evening, sit back, have a nice glass of wine or whatever, and just really take all that, that in and just enjoy it and relax, just.
Yeah. And the great thing about like this on an album, like I advocate for all LPs, is you're sitting down and this is a complete statement because it's of its time. It's kind of a compilation, right? It's a
Yeah.
compilation in the fact that they took some songs off the original release that weren't Christmas related and put new ones on, but it's still of its time, and it still has it's not like a compilation of, oh, here's, Bing Crosby, and then here's Rosemary Clooney, and then here's,
Yeah.
Mac Davis singing a song, and here's Judy Garland. Like, that's a different type of compilation, right? You're kind of all over the place, and you're getting different
Various artists,
different interpretations of it. Whereas with the Bing Crosby album, you could put that on, and you're just going to get just a nice feeling of just kind of rolling through these songs, and since they're all arranged and have that big band feel to it, you can kind of settle in with it, and you can have it on like while you're wrapping gifts or doing something in the background, or just like I said with this album, just sit and put it on and just sit down and kind of relax for a moment during the holidays, and just kind of let it wash over you, because you're choosing to put something like this on.
You are in total control. You're choosing to celebrate the season, and you put this music on yourself. You're going to enjoy it. You have to. You're not going to. Oh, it's annoying. I turn this off. Nobody ever says that.
And Bing doesn't have that voice. Yeah, and Bing doesn't have that voice anyway. Bing's voice is not. He doesn't screech.
It's like almost as if they're tailor made to just do Christmas music. I honestly believe that there's certain artists that are just, if they just did that like if they put maybe something a little bit new out each year, we'll just add a new song or we'll do something new. But I almost feel like there's certain artists that are just, I'd be happy with that. Just to listen to these artists doing that stuff. And some of them are.
The sin is that he is only known for this. But he sold millions of records, and he has gold records that have nothing to do with Christmas. He has million selling records that have absolutely nothing to do with Christmas.
Yeah.
But he is forever known as this because his voice has that, like you said, it's that warmth, it's that inviting, it's comfortable.
It really is.
It feels safe.
It feels safe. You're secure.
It feels like home.
Yeah.
It just kind of doesn't like you said, he doesn't have a falsetto, so you're not going to get these wild swings. His voice is very comfortable, like a blanket.
You don't want that. You don't want people. I don't want a rock and roll song I'm sorry. I just don't.
What about Queen?
Certain people like Jingle Bell Rock and things like that. I mean, it's okay, but I prefer this. I could listen to this all night, Christmas morning. We have it on during the day. In the background, we're eating dinner, we'll put it on, something like that. And that's it. That's all I need. I don't need.
Can we put the greatest contemporary Christmas song in your list though? Thank God It's Christmas by Queen. I love that song.
Okay.
You ever hear it? You've heard it, right?
I've heard it. Of course I've heard it.
Okay.
There are
recorded during the Under Pressure
notable
stuff.
Exceptions to the, absolutely. There's, so
Good.
yeah, but not Paul McCartney. That song.
There's never been an ELO Christmas song.
That song,
Sorry
Paul
to say.
McCartney's.
I love that. I love Wonderful Christmas Time. I know you hate it. I love it.
I despise that song.
I love it because it's so simple.
Oh my God. It's just,
Hey, he was the one. He was able to write a contemporary.
And yet I just read today that he made $15 million on that song alone.
I don't doubt it.
So there you go.
The guy could write. We talked about this. We just did Flaming Pie. The guy could write music in his sleep, and he probably did. He probably slept through this, and popped it out. Here's a little Christmas ditty. It's a throw. It is literally. It sounds like a throwaway song.
It does.
But that's the charm of it too. Is that it's so lo-fi.
Yeah.
For me, that's the charm of it. That it's not this big McCartney production. It's so like off the cuff, and that's what that's why it works in spite of itself. That he wasn't trying to make this big. People are trying to make these Christmas songs now, like Josh Groban and with these big voices, and it's got to sound perfect. And that's what I love about Wonderful Christmas Time is it doesn't sound perfect. It sounds like people.
Well, I can see that it is a sort of an everyman approach to. He's not trying to be like operatic or which he does, but it's like it. Yeah, he's approaching it from just a pop song aspect.
Simple,
simple.
Yeah,
it's simple. Yeah,
of its time.
But
I know you dislike. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not going to try and change.
It just kind of it just doesn't do anything for me. Especially that keyboard that and it just goes. I don't know what's going on there. It's just like
it's so of its time. You have to love it.
but whatever, hey,
It's great.
yeah,
It's not this album though, and that's the thing.
no.
It's if you haven't listened to, it's on Spotify and it's under White Christmas. So if you're gonna try and listen to this album, I
think both are actually on there. You can,
I tried to, I used my I don't want to say her name. I used my smart speaker, and I asked her to play the album Merry Christmas.
yeah.
And she didn't play it.
Okay, so I'm
She
looking
just
up.
played the song White Christmas.
Okay,
But if you look up on Spotify, Merry Christmas, Bing Crosby, they have it listed as White Christmas.
well, we got Bing at Christmas. We have
You've got White Christmas, and it's listed as being from 1945.
okay.
But the album art is White Christmas, and it's similar to this thing, but it's not. So, am I splitting hairs? Perhaps. I might be splitting hairs. The compilation is the same. No music has been changed, but
Mhm.
if you're into vinyl, you're into LPs, go get the Merry Christmas. Don't settle for the White Christmas version. Go find the original. I mean, this is on Decca. This one's from 1965. It's older than me. Not by much, but it's older than me.
Yeah.
Seek out those original recordings. That's the fun too. Half of it is, with looking for Christmas music on vinyl. For some reason, I became enamored with Ray Conniff.
Okay.
The Ray Conniff singers. I just love that. Like this one big vocal blend of guys and gals. Like it's just this big, thick vocal. It's like not one distinct person. And so I was going for, I was like finding the Ray Conniff stuff too.
Well, their Winter Wonderland is by far the best.
Yeah, they do a lot of great stuff
with the whip and the you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, that is again a staple. That is an absolute classic. Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny. So when you and this stuff you can get for a song and a dance, like the Christmas music on vinyl, they give it away. You go to the dollar bin, you'll walk out hands full of stuff. Especially the Herb Alpert Christmas one is
some people are like, I can't get rid of this fast enough.
Yeah,
but that's but you're not. We'll take it.
If you're looking to build a collection, hit the dollar bin during the holiday, or actually you hit it in June, and it's probably even cheaper because that's when they're trying to get rid of it. During the holidays, it probably goes to $2 because people are looking for it. Vince Guaraldi Trio, the original Charlie Brown Christmas. I'll put that sound. I'll put that up there as a that's from the '60s. So I'll put that up there with as a classic as well.
Yep.
Of again, what is it? It's jazz music. It's
mostly
jazz.
Instrumental.
Yeah, it's jazz music.
Yep. But it's fantastic.
It's just a trio. Just three guys noodling.
Vince
Guaraldi noodling away on the piano, just kind of the song starts and then it just goes off into this little improv, and Vince Guaraldi just kind of goes off on the piano, just kind of he goes out there and he comes back, and then they tie it all up. So there's a lot of great stuff, and it seems to me, now that we're having this conversation, I seem to be veering towards the jazz artists for this kind of stuff. Right? But it seems to be like that, but then again, if you're going back to that era, that's what it was, right? That's what these compositions were. They were big band flavored, jazz flavored. You didn't, maybe Elvis had his Christmas album, Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me. And he did a lot of that stuff too, but it's not the same. Blue Christmas. It's a great song, but I'd rather hear anything off of Bing.
Sure. And again, I mean, there's Christmas songs that, like, my favorite things, I guess you could call it a Christmas song.
Technically.
Coltrane's version of that song is amazing. Even the more avant-garde jazz artists of the period were doing that, and Greensleeves and you know. So I mean, it's the form. The form is one thing, but the composition. It's already a great composition, but
I think that's what's different too.
Sort of stretch it out and make it their own is amazing. But
and I think I think you hit on something right there. I think the approach to songwriting is different. Yeah, was different back then, right? Things were, if especially since the music was predominantly that jazz big band, you're writing for maybe 8 to 10 to 15 instruments, right? Because you've got clarinets, oboes,
Yeah.
saxophones, then you've got trumpets and trombones, and then you've got so you're writing kind of more complex music that it's easy to interpret. It's easy to strip it away
Hmm.
to adapt it now with just a guitar or some sparse stuff, but it was written big.
And we don't,
Or it was arranged big. Let me put it to that. It may not have been written big,
oh
but
yeah,
it had to be arranged on a bigger level. And
we
it
don't
had to
give,
be
and then
arranged in a way to make it interesting.
we don't give nearly these guys enough credit.
Yeah.
I think we always talk about like Brian Wilson doing that with Pet
Yeah.
Sounds, bringing in the orchestration, the Beatles doing that. It's like, oh, it was so,
Yeah, where did they
you
get
know,
it from?
groundbreaking. But consider what these guys, the Duke Ellingtons, the Irving Berlins, yeah, man. I mean, they did it first. It had to, like, again, it had to start somewhere. And like you say, big arrangements for a big orchestra. They had to write all those components and
Yeah, and it had to be interesting. It couldn't just
almost
be
like
everybody
classical
playing the
music.
same thing.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
that damn long hair music in the 60s had to come and ruin everything. Those damn long hairs, those what are those kids,
Yeah. What were they thinking? What do they know?
you can't listen to that stuff. It's unlistenable. What is it? That's not the music I grew up listening to.
Right.
It was when I was listening to music, it was simpler. You went on a
Back
date
in
with a
my
girl.
day. But the thing of it was, people say that, but it's not. It's so much more complex, the music of their day.
was.
I listened to some of this big band stuff and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Lionel Hampton,
Yeah.
like playing the xylophone and like these elaborate, like long-winded solos. And like, this is brilliant stuff. I mean, this is where prog was born, and all this, the stuff that the Brits took on and made it more rock and, developed that. But
yeah, and that's what those people were listening to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were a rock and roll artist
yeah,
that came up in the 60s, you were born in the 40s, so you were listening to this music was the popular music. So that's all that was available. So that's what you were listening to. And then of course in the 50s, rhythm and blues kind of came in, and then it got all mashed together and exploded into the 60s. So it's all there, and a lot of those art, like, we'll talk about Jeff Lynne just briefly. He made that album Long Way, right? It was all old music.
Old music. Yeah.
He wasn't trying to do the Great American Songbook. He was doing music that he remembers listening to or being exposed to as a kid.
On the radio.
And it was all that kind of lush stuff. And you see where that can inform an artist. It definitely informed where he was coming from. So don't dismiss this kind of stuff as just throwaway Christmas music.
No.
It's a good place to start, right?
I say
it's
so.
a great place to grab this album or listen to it on Spotify as White Christmas, but listen to the whole thing. Don't just, go through the whole thing and really kind of listen for the arrangements. There's a lot there. It's hard because Bing's voice it's hard to get it past it. He takes up a lot of the oxygen on these songs just because you can't help but be listening to how smooth his voice, it cuts like butter. It cuts like a knife through butter. He's just so smooth with his vocals. He doesn't miss a note. He's just so comfortable and relaxed too. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't sound like he's trying.
And these were the rock stars of the day. These were the badasses.
He was the one. He was the one.
Don't forget that, man. You don't mistake. Wow. Don't underestimate these. Just because the guy's like looking old and he's smoking a pipe with a sweater on doesn't mean that he didn't know what he was doing and knew
back then
what to do, what not to do, and he did it his own way. And same thing with Nat King Cole, Charles, all these. Yeah.
Doesn't even sound like Bing Crosby's trying. Like his style is just so easygoing, and maybe that's what makes it so appealing too.
That's right.
Is he's not like a force singer like with those big voices like a Steve Perry or an Ann Wilson. Those voices are being pushed out and being projected. His is like sitting by the fire with a newspaper and a pipe and slippers on, and he's just like, just kind of rolls out. And maybe that's what's so comforting about it.
I'll take that any day. These guys get up, they do their thing, they just perform, and the confidence that they had to do this stuff, and it just, the music says it all. They didn't need to sit there and tell stories, or they didn't need like engage the audience and like love me, that kind of thing. In the rock and roll setting, it's like that. A lot of that is, I feel like a lot of energy is wasted in that.
Yeah.
I almost feel like there's at certain times that maybe an artist is losing, they're insecure. in a way, because they need to engage with the audience that way.
Yeah,
And
they need that validation.
they need that validation. Right. These guys didn't need that. They did it.
Ah,
And
well, I mean, Bing, had radio show, TV show, movies, so he was getting validated enough. Like I said, this song made its debut in Holiday Inn, which was 1942. Okay. It became a staple. They would, and the funny thing is most people think about the movie White Christmas, right? Which came out in 1954. It actually came out like 12 years later. Directed by who? Michael Curtiz, who we just talked about in our Casablanca episode.
That's right.
Everybody knows White Christmas, the movie, but Holiday Inn, White Christmas is basically a loose rewrite of Holiday Inn. It's the same story, two guys, and they got to put the inn together and all that kind of stuff. So again, they're it was so popular that they were able to basically retread this movie, like trot it back out again, rewrite it, and get Bing Crosby back for it. They tried to get I think they tried to get Fred Astaire back because he was in Going My Way or Holiday Inn. And they couldn't. They went through a couple other people. They landed on Danny Kaye. So it just goes to show the enduring nature of the song is that it was so big that they built a second movie around it. Some 12 years later. That's insane. And it was, and that's the one that everybody knows. White, the movie White Christmas and Technicolor, and all the great, great dance, all the great show-stopping numbers. But Holiday Inn was like the original seed where all this came from.
It's so easy to get confused too, but that was the thing with the classic Hollywood. They thought nothing of remaking a movie or telling a story again and again and again. We talked about the Maltese Falcon. It was done 3 times before they got it right. Sometimes they needed to do that, but the Hollywood system back then, it was so fluid and it was such a well-oiled machine that they just were able to do these things and without, nobody was talking about, we can't do that. It's going to bankrupt us. So, all this stuff, they did it. They seemed to do it. They seemed to achieve it.
Yeah.
And sometimes for the better.
Yeah.
So.
And then Bing Crosby would, after he did Holiday Inn, he would do a film called Going My Way, which was like another kind of, he played Father O'Malley. He ended up winning an Academy Award for that.
Yeah.
And then they made a sequel to Bells of St. Mary's. He got nominated for that. I think Bells of St. Mary's had Ingrid Bergman. Was she in the second one? I think was she in Bells of St. Mary's?
Yeah.
So this guy's done it all. I mean, he's won Academy Awards for acting. He's won, Oscars for song, is a song that he sung in a movie was won an Oscar. Sold millions of copies of records, was one of the pioneers of being a pop idol, was deep into technology and supporting and pioneering technology. I mean, and then he's got a voice that could just melt a candle without a match.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what more else what more else can we say about him?
Well, I think you hit it.
They even named the web.
All about, man. We appreciate this.
They even named They even named a web browser after him. Bing. No. Okay. No one uses Bing. That's why that joke fell flat, because no one uses Bing. That was a Christmas dud.
A dud.
Yeah, that one.
No, but I don't know, man. I'm glad that we get to talk about this kind of stuff, because whether or not, I hope we're reaching some people out there and they can appreciate, at least take a couple of things that we say about this stuff and just give it a shot, give it a listen, and
give this a listen.
It's well worth it.
I mean, in doing the research on this, it's intrigued me enough to go find some of his non-holiday stuff. I want to kind of, if doing all the reading and finding out about this album and all the different releases, I'm kind of like, well, I think I owe it to give him a listen for his other stuff. If I really like his voice here, and again, this is the comfortable stuff, and we know it, and it's comfort zone, it's comfort food. It's like mac and cheese. Yeah. You can, so I'm like, well, you know what? Let me go check out some of the other. I'm sure it's on Spot. I'm sure he's got all his stuff is on Spotify. So I'm gonna go check out. I'm gonna go check out some of his non-stuff, his regular jazz stuff, and see how that fits. What's the worst? The worst that's gonna happen is I end up liking it.
That's
right.
yeah.
That's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Collecting it, and then
I end up enjoying it and listening to it. So
that's right.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of this holiday episode of the 3324 podcast. Hopefully all your holiday and Christmas wishes come true, and whatever you're wishing for under the tree, I hope it's there twice. So you always have a backup in case if you break something. It's no fun breaking. It's no fun breaking a toy on 2 days after Christmas and it's shot.
That could be expensive, right? But well,
it just sucked as a kid. If something broke, it's like shit. I had it a week. How can I do that? God, the kung fu grip like broke off the GI Joe, or like the fingers ripped off.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
This thing is useless.
Sock'em robots just didn't.
The head goes flying into the air. It's like, okay, this thing is useless now. I had that with my Battlestar Galactica game.
That's right. You told that story. Yeah.
And it broke like a week later.
But you got it back, didn't you?
I got another one. My girlfriend bought me one a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh my God, my Christmas wish has come true.
See that?
I'm afraid to play though. I don't want to break it. But anyway, go check out the Merry Christmas album, or if you're going to look on Spotify, it's called White Christmas by Bing Crosby. It's a great collection of Christmas music. That's what it is. Mostly secular stuff and a little bit of religious stuff. Secular meaning popular stuff, non-religious. I like using the big word to confuse people, but secular just means non-religious.
Yep.
That's all it means. You can throw that word out at your next when you go to your holiday party for work. Say, how about some secular Christmas music?
secular,
and see what they do. See if they think it means religious, or see if they know what it means. And they put on,
right. That would be.
They put on, Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano. So hopefully they'll do that.
Yeah.
So, that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. We could use a few more subscribers. That would be a great holiday gift for us.
Sure.
It's probably the best thing I could wish for. If you're listening to us on Spotify, why, thank you, or iTunes or Google, any of the other podcast providers. Go ahead and follow us. Save it. There's more like this to come. It's only going to get better. Each episode just gets like incrementally better, not like 1%, but incrementally. So you got to stay for the whole thing to see the whole growth.
That's right.
We're a grower, not a shower. So
conversations flowing, and we love it.
And we only have more great
it's all
stuff
about.
There's more great stuff coming in 2023. I can't believe I'm saying that, but more great stuff coming into 2023 as we head towards our beginning our third year. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Eric, also for
of course
coming on the journey, and
you too,
holidays.
Sir. Yeah.
Happy holidays. We need to go and put on our cable knit sweaters and go to Charlie Brown's and have a steak dinner like we used to do.
Oh man, yeah.
Charlie Brown's is a defunct steakhouse I don't know if it's nationwide, but it was definitely in the New York area. Charlie Brown's. It's like an Outback. Like the equivalent now is like Outback.
Oh, I think it's better. I think it was
Eric
than Outback. I don't know.
After we graduated, quick story before we go. After we graduated high school, me, Eric, and our best friend Johnny, we all thought we were fancy men. We were gentlemen, and we were going to conduct.
We were ready to tackle the world, right?
We were going to conduct ourselves as gentlemen. So each Christmas we would get dressed up, which meant sweaters. Mm-hmm. It meant sweaters from Chess King or whatever, whatever was out there in the mall. and we would exchange gifts I'm gonna blow the lid on this one since we're talking about sweaters. And we used to get each other gifts. So we would each get each other a gift or so and exchange, and then we'd go out to dinner and sit down and have a steak dinner and enjoy each other's company. Back in the day, our friend Johnny got me a gift, and I opened it up, and it was a Sega Genesis system, Sega Genesis video game system, which I wanted. I really wanted like Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, like that back then, that's a lot of money for somebody.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Like,
right?
Like we're great friends, but I'm like, that was like I didn't spend that much.
Yeah,
like holy crap, like I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh wow, Sega Genesis. He's like, open it. I open it. There's a fucking sweater inside.
Yeah.
A sweater.
Not
a Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
I don't know where the Sega Genesis was. I don't know if he bought it for himself I don't know if he went into the dumpster at Child World and got an empty Sega Gen. I don't know what he did. All I know is I opened that box and the disappointment. I wish that we had a video camera. I would have liked to see the look on my face of utter defeat.
Well, yeah. But did you honestly think that you were getting a Sega Genesis? Okay.
Why would I think otherwise? I opened the wrapping paper and it's a Sega. Why would I think it's anything else?
Yeah. It surprised me, but I was like, this can't be happening right now.
That's messed up. That's messed up.
Because I got half a bar of soap.
Yeah, he showed me what he really felt.
Remember that? We used to get like the soap. What was it? The soap on a rope or whatever?
Soap on a rope. Yep.
Yeah. And he split. I think at one point, and it was from his, full disclosure, it was from his little brother, and he just wanted to be included because he really liked us coming around, and so it was really sweet. And he got this, and they cut it in half, right? And we each got half of the soap on a rope, which I thought was great.
I don't know. Did you get the rope part, or did I get the soap part?
I don't know. I think I got the rope part. Yeah, at that point, but
yeah, we could do a show on Christmas memories. But I thought that would be a fun story. That's called a Christmas denial. And I thought
big
that was
time
a fun story.
Yeah, but you got duped.
Anyway,
damn.
Yeah,
denied.
God, I was different.
I think Johnny got a kick out of it, though.
He absolutely did. He was dying. If anybody knows our friend Johnny, he was probably dying. He was dying.
That was
the whole point. He gave the gift to himself.
Yeah,
like the gift was me opening that.
That's right.
The gift to himself was his reaction to getting the laugh.
That's right.
That was the whole point of it. He gave himself the best gift. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully, no matter what it is, enjoy the holidays. It's a great time to spend with family, friends, or nobody. If that's what you want to do, if you want to be solitary, that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Grab "Merry Christmas" by Bing Crosby. Check that album out. Absolutely, add it to your Christmas rotation as a complete thought, and then you can go listen to the other stuff and check that out. But give this some ear time on its own. It's only like a half hour, so maybe even less. So that's gonna do it for this episode. So for Eric, this has been Dean. We'll catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Cooper. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.